ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us here on this really important day for us. I'm going to deliver some interesting aspects that we will bring to you today, and it's going to kind of add on to what Pierre and Andy were saying from Gartner, and to kind of give you more of a closer perspective in some of the things that are driving enterprise customers today. So if we look across Asia Pacific today, enterprise customers by and large can be classified into three groups. So the first group are those groups of customers who are not yet ready for an NPS engagement with HP. The second group of customers are those customers that are thinking about getting into an NPS engagement and are changing their business dynamics to fit into that realm. And the third group of customers are those groups of customers that today currently are in an NPS agreement. And what you see across all these three groups of customers is that you have very similar desires, needs, and pressures being put on the CIOs in the IT infrastructure. The CIO today is a really tough job to have. Never before in history has he had that much pressure. Organizations are asking the CIO to deliver more and more value, to enable more and more business processes, and at the same time, do it more cost effectively than they did the year before and the year before that. The second pressure point that is coming to bear on customers is that the amount of data, the amount of information that people are having to deal with, that enterprises are having to deal with, is doubling and exploding year on year. And this brings about a whole host of other challenges in an organization that my colleagues Torsten and Lawrence will cover a little bit later. But fundamentally it means that the needs and the desires of organizations are changing. And what I'll talk about now is kind of some of the aspects around how we can bring control, how we can bring predictability, and how we can bring a choice to the way enterprise customers engage with HP. So the first element we'll speak about is the new Enterprise Suppliers Program. So what you have is, because of all this pressure, because of all this need to get better results, we brought together this program to allow for control and predictability of the supplier's usage within customer environments. These customers that engage with us in this model tend to be in the first two environments, so those customers that are not yet NPS customers with us, or those customers that are wanting to be NPS or thinking about becoming NPS customers. They engage with us on a very transactional basis. And this is true whether I speak to a customer here in China, or whether I speak to a customer in India or in Australia. All these customers want greater visibility, they want greater control, but most of all, they want greater predictability around their organization and their cost structures. These customers are price sensitive. Because of the cost pressures, they're all looking to reduce their overall cost envelope, what it is that it costs them to run their IT infrastructure. And what we have is we have the ability to bring to them an annual suppliers contract, billing that customer on a per-page basis as they consume their toner cartridges. So we've deployed this particular solution within one customer there. And I'm going to just take a few minutes just to read out the quote from the customer in Thailand. We learned that using refillable toner cartridges or remanufactured cartridges would not actually bring about any cost savings. The hidden costs involved would actually make them more expensive in the long run. And that is fundamentally the big shift that is happening. Because of the desire of customers to want to get into a predictable, dependable, and reliable position. Part of that is the supplier's infrastructure running their imaging and printing environment. So why are customers moving to the original product? What is driving these customers? And on the board behind me are just the four main reasons that we see customers wanting to use it. So the first one is the environmental leadership. So today HP is a very proud corporate citizen to say that we are developing technologies in the use of our products, but also technologies in the manufacturing of our products that allow for environmental stewardship, that allow for environmental leadership. And this is true when you're using the original cartridge. They're asking for products that are priced to save. So what we see today is that with the technologies that we have, with the billing models that we have to customers, we can bring about the advantages of the original products, price them in a way that is competitive in the market, and bring about cost savings to our customers. The customers are asking for reliability. 1 in 4 remanufactured or recycled HPP or cartridge today fails. Corporations today don't want the hassle factor of knowing, if I print this document, will it print? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. With the original product, you have a guarantee. You know you have a reliability factor that'll work every time. And the last one is the quality. In using the original product, you have the same output quality from the very first page on that device right the way through to the very last page coming out of that device. And this is something that is not necessarily true in the other aspects. So when you use a refilled or a remanufactured cartridge. Let me kind of move the conversation slightly over to the NPS customers. Those that currently today have an NPS agreement with us. What are they looking for? What is driving their decisions? So today, these customers have a contractual relationship with HP. Generally speaking, a management services engagement where the customer is between 3 and 5 years. And the big difference that HP brings to organizations, it brings an enterprise-wide, scalable, managed print services environment. Okay, so as the companies change, as they get bigger and smaller and change and move to new geographies, we can scale and expand our NPS offering accordingly. We can offer the same solution with the same sort of services environment if that customer, like Tyrrell was saying, is in Buenos Aires, in Bangalore, or here in Beijing. There is no other company today that can offer a managed print solution suite like HP can. But part of managed print services, and the part that's gaining a lot of momentum, is the area of workflow. And you heard Andy speak about it. The pressure on the CIO to do more with that infrastructure is getting greater and greater. And what we see is that imaging and printing is an effective method to use that scanning capability of the multifunctional printer to be the on-ramp into the customer's IT environment, to create the link between the printer and the user and the customer's data center. Now, whether that data center be sitting in his basement or be sitting in a cloud environment is not necessarily a discussion. It's about creating that link. And to facilitate and bring about more of these links, HP will, in APJ, now be able to incorporate our award-winning, world-leading ScanJet range of products into managed print services environment to facilitate this move to a workflow, document-centric environment. And this is just a comment there from New Zealand Steel. You heard Pierre mention it earlier on. But what we've seen is that this move to managed print service, a more holistic ecosystem, where you view not only this device that has the ability to put black dots on a piece of paper, but this device as an enabler of business processes, bringing about value and cost savings to customers. For every $1 a customer spends on printing a document, they're spending $9 on managing that document. And NPS is the vehicle to enable customers to manage that document there. And because we are so confident with our statement, because we believe in what we do, and we believe we can bring about change, coming next month in May, we will launch the HPP Back Guarantee. This is an industry first. No one else is doing anything remotely like this in the market. So we will launch it in May in Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore. And before the end of the year, we will expand this program to selected countries across the region. So what does this mean? What do you get from this HPP Back Guarantee? So when we engage with the customer, the starting point for that engagement is an assessment of their environment. What does their infrastructure look like? We assess that environment and we do it in consultation with the customer. So this is not a one-sided agreement. This is both of us working together. Once we finish this assessment, we build the architecture for that customer. What does the architecture look like or need to look like in that customer's organization to drive the greatest business value? We agree on this architecture. And linked to this agreement of the architecture, we link in it what are the cost savings that that customer can get from that infrastructure. And if we have a look at our experience across the region, by and large, customers in an HP MPS engagement can get anything from a 10 to a 30% improvement in their cost structure when using HP MPS. And when you kind of sit there and you think about it, 5% of a company's revenue is related to imaging and printing. These are huge numbers of savings that can be brought about to companies and organizations. So now we've designed this architecture. We know what the future state looks like. HP then rolls out and deploys MPS within that environment. We manage it on behalf of that customer. And at the end of 12 months, we do an assessment. Has HP achieved the cost savings we agreed to before MPS? And if we have not reached those cost savings that we've agreed upon, we will pay back to the customer the difference. That's a pretty bold statement. It's a pretty bold position to take as a vendor. And that is a huge sense of comfort that we can bring to a customer. That's saying to the customer that we've heard what you've said, Mr. Customer. We've seen what you've asked for. We've had validation from analysts. And not only are we happy with that, we're going to kind of put some skin in the game. We're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to give you the cost savings that you're looking for. So to kind of wrap up, to kind of, again, put it in a picture. You've got three types of customers. The first type are not ready for MPS yet. The second group of customers, they are thinking or wanting to move to MPS. And the third group currently are MPS customers. And for all three of these customers, there is one commonality. They're looking for control, they're looking for predictability. And in both of these scenarios, whether you're in an HP supplies program, an enterprise supplies program, or whether you move to an MPS, HP is the vehicle to bring about these changes and to lead the change in an organization. Let me close off by saying that MPS, or the Enterprise Supplies Program, is not an end state. It is not a goal. It is not something you get to and the world is finished. But imaging and printing, as a practice within IT, is gaining momentum. And it's in the interest of enterprise customers to ensure that they harness and leverage imaging and printing to drive the greatest change in their organizations. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the day.